4 top-performing high schools and pre-kindergarten centers to be managed by outside organizations. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines, and we'll also talk with Darren Bush, a professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center, who will break down the newly filed antitrust bill. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also be joined by Houston Grand Opera's General Director and CEO, Khori Dastoor, who will tell us all about their upcoming 2026-27 season. And as always, we want to hear from you. So give us a call or text us 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The government is expected to start paying TSA workers today, but the White House border czar, Tom Homan, suggests immigration enforcement agents recently deployed to airports in response to staffing shortages are not going anywhere just yet. NPR's Jeff Brady with new details.
President Trump directed the Transportation Security Administration to pay workers from existing funds. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers have been helping the TSA with checking identification and other tasks. On CNN's State of the Union, Tom Homan said ICE officers might remain at airports.
Depends how many TSA agents come back to work, how many TSA agents have actually quit and have no plan coming back to work.
The TSA says hundreds of workers quit after going weeks without pay. That's increased security wait times by hours at airports around the country.
NPR's Jeff Brady reporting. President Trump's threatening to destroy Iran's energy resources, its desalination plants, and other vital infrastructure if the Islamic Republic does not agree to a ceasefire plan, quote, shortly. In a social media post and remarks during a Financial Times interview, Trump suggested U.S. troops could seize Iran's Kharg Island oil export hub. Iran has resisted direct negotiations. Meanwhile, the country struck a key water and electrical plant in Kuwait. It also targeted an oil refinery in Israel. The U.S. war with Iran continues to rattle global energy markets. NPR's Scott Horsley reports crude oil prices have resumed their upward climb.
Crude oil prices in the U.S. jumped back above $100 a barrel. Retail gasoline prices are hovering just below $4 a gallon. Traders are trying to sort through mixed signals about the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran. That country has retaliated with attacks on energy infrastructure in both Israel and Kuwait. Yemen's Houthi rebels also fired missiles at Israel, raising concern the Iranian-backed group might resume its attacks on commercial shipping traffic in the Red Sea. That would add another complication for global commerce, already squeezed by Iran's chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Israel says it's widening its invasion of southern Lebanon and also striking Hezbollah infrastructure in Beirut. NPR's Lauren Frayer has the latest.
Video posted to social media shows a UN helicopter landing in southern Lebanon to evacuate the wounded from a peacekeeping base there. Indonesia says the peacekeeper killed was one of its citizens and that 3 others were wounded by indirect artillery fire. The UN says it doesn't know the origin of that fire, Israel or Hezbollah, and is investigating. UN troops have been stationed in southern Lebanon for decades to monitor cross-border conflict. This month, Israel invaded again, killing more than 1,200 people and displacing more than 1 million, according to Lebanon's government. The World Health Organization says a paramedic was also among those killed Sunday in a strike on an ambulance, and that a medical warehouse was also destroyed. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, Beirut.
This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. TSA security wait times at Bush Intercontinental are under 10 minutes. That's a dramatic improvement from the hours-long lines that travelers faced all of last week. Those delays were fueled by TSA staffing shortages during this government shutdown when workers went unpaid, creating a nightmare for flyers. Now the scene looks very different. News 88.7's Bianca Seward is live now at Bush Airport. Bianca, what are you seeing right now?
Hey, Matt. Yeah, I'm back in Terminal E this morning where wait times are about 5 minutes and there's almost no line. Airport staff have even taken down the overflow ropes that were set up outside to manage crowds when the line looped across multiple floors and even snaked outside. Those areas are now open to regular traffic again, and things are starting to look much more normal at the airport. Still, just 2 terminals remain open for security, but it's a much better experience today compared to last week. I've spoken with some families that still came with extra hours to make sure that they didn't miss their flight. After a week of headlines about the historically long lines, they say they're not taking any chances.
Can't blame them. Thank you, Bianca. The No Kings protests in the Houston region drew thousands of demonstrators Saturday as part of the nationwide movement in response to President Donald Trump and his policies. Debbie Nance and a group of her older adult friends have attended all 3 No Kings protests at different locations throughout Harris and Brazoria counties. She said at the Pearland protests, she's seeing a shift in her everyday life due to the movement.
They're switching positions and they're thinking about who we've elected as leaders, and they're reconsidering that.
The number of people participating in the nationwide protests have grown throughout the country since it first began on President's Day last year. That's according to organizers. And gas prices continue to rise, however, not nearly at the pace of previous weeks. The average price for a gallon of regular right now in Houston is about $3.62, according to AAA. That's 5 cents higher than the previous week. We had been seeing 25-cent increases week to week. The price of oil continues to rise as the war in the Middle East rages on. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And we're back. Hello, Houston, on a Monday.
And boy, is it a Monday of all Mondays.
Yes.
HISD is out for school today. And so I feel like as parents, we're all hitting that point in the school year where if you don't have a day or, you know, we're getting ready for Easter, we're getting ready for all the spring stuff. And then you look at May, end of school year, where we just start to like limp along the school year.
Well, it used to be that they had the test.
I think they do. I think they have STAR test.
Yeah, but they have their testing like this week, and then after that they took the textbooks up. And then you had to figure out what to do with them for the month of May.
Living long. Philip had chapel this morning.
Is that why you don't have school?
I think it's some type of teacher in service. And then, you know.
We loved those when we were kids.
So there's no school today?
There's no school today.
Yeah.
Is there school Good Friday?
For HISD. There's no school on Friday either.
Oh, yeah. And Passover is on Wednesday.
Right. So
there you go.
The school, elementary
and we all know Sunday is
Easter Sunday.
Orthodox Palm Sunday, because we're a week off this year.
Yeah, it's not Greek. Greek Easter is the correct Easter, I think.
Well, good.
Timing-wise.
It's correct for me this year because I can get all my candy half off and stuff. I wait and buy it on Monday morning.
That's the way he sees that.
Yes.
That's the measurement of if the calendar's working.
Right, it works for me. Sometimes every 5 years it's a week before American Easter, and that throws me totally off. I can't get any discounts then.
Yeah.
Pricey.
How
was your weekend?
It was busy. For those of you following my drama, I'm looking for healthcare workers again at the house. Things didn't work out with our new person. So.
It's tough. Healthcare for elderly parents is tough.
And the system is set up in such a way that really doesn't pay them what they're worth. And especially when you're going through insurances and stuff that pay the workers, it's so low and it's really hard. And they work so hard. They're such a part of your family. So any of you that have care workers that work in your home, give them extra love. They work really hard and they're the backbone of so many families. I mean, on this table, 2 out of 3 of us use home care helpers at 2 different ends of the spectrum. And Frank will be getting one of his soon too to take care of
my own, take care of me. You might be right about that. It's Kevin's dad's birthday today. He's in his late 80s, 87, I think. And and Kevin's mom and dad are doing great.
Oh, good.
That's awesome.
Health-wise, they're just doing terrific. So hopefully those genes have. So Kevin could take care of me.
All right. Well,
you know what else is today? My parents' 48th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations!
48, yeah. Congrats. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad.
If you were to ask them, what would they say is the secret to success of a long marriage?
Probably separate bedrooms.
I agree.
It helps with the snoring, doesn't it?
I'm kidding. Maybe I shouldn't have said that to everybody. My mom is probably dying right now. But,
Hey, I know two young guys that have snoring bedrooms, It's like we try, but when the snoring starts, I have my own bedroom to go to.
I say separate houses.
So that even works better.
That's the best. You live your own life.
That is so funny.
We are in a mood.
I was traveling this weekend to Washington, D.C.
I want to know how that was.
The travel was great. I was at Hobby. Sailed through like I was just, in line for McDonald's. It just was nothing. And so that, and the TSA workers were all very pleasant. Mm-hmm. I saw ICE agents there. They honestly were sort of standing by that board where all the flights are, all the departures and arrivals as you get through. Just kind of standing there. I don't know. I guess it is what it is. The problem is everybody goes so early. Now you've got an airport full of people that have to wait 2 or 3 hours for their flight. So all of the restaurants and the bars and the lounges, everything is full.
Yeah.
So it really crowds up the airport when the lines aren't long.
Yeah. You see, I am one of those where even if we're flying, doesn't matter. I always pack a big Ziploc with all kinds of snacks and treats so that I don't have to go eat at the restaurants.
But you're a mom. I just see you fill in a bag with snacks all the time whenever you have the kids, and you got to have something to give them and all that. I want to tell you, want to know what makes me really happy right now is the fact we haven't even started hitting our topics today, and we already have a call on the line that wants to join us and chat with us. So let's go to the phones right now. 713-440-8870. Jacob from Montrose is on the line. Hello, Jacob. What's on your mind?
Well, this is on my mind. The comments being taken over by the Connecticut Sun. I mean, you're going to have the organization of the Rockets, and you're going to have the female basketball organization with them. And just like you have in the run by Jessica O'Neill of the Dynamo organization, you have the Dynamo and the Dash.
Yes.
And that is good.
That's right, Jacob. Yes. To Jacob's point and to his call, the legendary Houston Comets are officially set to return to the WNBA in 2027 following a record-breaking deal. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Houston Rockets, has reached an agreement to purchase the Connecticut Sun for a league record $300 million and relocate the franchise to the Bayou City.
Yeah, the name will be changed back to the Houston Comets.
It'll be changed back to the Houston Comets. We were a great team back, I guess, was it early 2000s or was it in the 90s? I don't remember exactly when the Comets were here.
I want to say they wrapped in 2008.
2008, okay.
I may be off on that, but around then. It's funny, we were talking about that in the morning meeting today, and it's like, so the name, they can get the name back. They can be the Comets. That you're buying the franchise, the group of folks, but you can rename it. And so we can have the Comets back. They don't have to become the Houston Suns.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it's going to be the Comets. I mean, it's already an established franchise name for those of us who were around. What, they left in 2008, I think?
Yeah.
So, but before then, it was kind of a big deal to watch some great players. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of coming back, rain is in the forecast. We have
Talk to us about that.
Oh, I missed you, Rain. Where have you been?
The beautiful shot out there right now. So we have a little bit of a rain chance as we go into this week just because of moisture off the Gulf, like 20% every afternoon, more of a summer chance.
Yeah.
But as we head toward the weekend, which as we were saying, Good Friday and Saturday and Easter, it's a little early on the timing, but another front means it might be a bit of a wet one, especially Saturday and perhaps lingering into Easter.
Oh, man, we have to prep for Easter egg hunts.
Yes.
So
it could get messy. And there's a lot of, obviously, outdoor events going on this weekend.
Right.
So we'll try to keep you up to date on that, but stay weather aware. It doesn't look severe at this point, but it looks wet. But we need the rain. We haven't had really significant rain in 7 months.
You know, I have an answer for you. Just all convert to Orthodox, and you can have your Easter a week later. Maybe we'll have
I already have
better
plans
weather.
for that, actually. So, yeah.
Right, of course.
But anyway, I hope it doesn't rain out anyone's plans. But it might. We do need the rain.
Might just keep an eye on it. But for right now,
it's nice and warm and going to be mostly sunny today with a high of 84.
I've been talking about I'm going to grill. Never got to it this weekend. Very busy, So I'm doing it tonight. Am I good weather-wise tonight?
Yes, you're fine. Partly
I'm going to go out and turn on that grill finally.
It'll be right there in the 70s. In fact, this should be a really pleasant evening.
So I tell you, my neighbor pulled a grill out in front of his house, and he was grilling. You know what he was grilling? It's his first time he used his grill. A chicken pot pie. I'm like, what?
Interesting. Not what I would have gone to.
He said he had to just burn the stuff off the grill, and he needed dinner, and he had that in the freezer, so he just put it on his grill.
There you go.
Oh,
there
wow.
you go.
Killing two birds with one stone.
Literally. We got a lot on today's show. You wouldn't be able to tell that, by the way. We're just rambling along and chatting. I think it was an awful lot of coffee in the host's break room this morning. We're going to be talking about the new antitrust bills that are coming along. We're going to be talking about what's going on over at Live Nation, how that settlement was settled. We'll tell you more on that. HGO, Houston Grand Opera, is going to join us to talk about their brand new season. They just announced a lot of exciting things happening there. So much to go, but Celeste, take us into our first story.
Yes. Houston ISD's state-appointed board has approved contracts allowing 4 top-performing high schools and several pre-K centers to be managed by outside organizations. The move follows a 2017 state law that allows partnerships between public schools and nonprofits or charter networks. District leaders say the partnership could bring in additional per-student funding as HISD faces ongoing enrollment declines and lost state dollars tied to attendance. The district will now seek final approval from the Texas Educational Agency, or TEA. If approved, these campuses could gain more control over curriculum, staffing, and academic calendars. What are your thoughts on public schools being managed by outside organizations? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
I don't know that I fully understand this concept. And so, Celeste, I'm going to throw it over to you, having a literal horse in this race. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that to the one side, HISD is basically saying this is going to allow flexibility. Schools can gain more control over their curriculum, staffing, scheduling. There's also a big push. They're talking about more funding. Partnerships could bring in additional per student dollars from the state. So those are the two big kind of
money.
Superintendent or the district saying that this is why they're doing it. Me personally, I find it a little concerning. I think there are a lot of questions around accountability come into play. Who's ultimately going to be responsible? Is it going to be the district or the outside organization? I'm also, as a parent within our community, I want to see transparency. Where does that come into play as well? Nonprofits and charter schools or charter partnerships might not necessarily have to follow the same public oversight that the district would have to. And then I also just am concerned by the fact that top performing schools are getting the extra resources instead of, looking at the ones that perhaps that need it most. Mm-hmm. So there's also a little bit of an equity issue that I have there as well. I have a problem bringing outside organizations into our school district again, and I think that's because what kind of impact is this going to have on the teachers? What kind of impact is this going to have on the students?
I think
what part do they manage? That's what I don't get.
Yeah, I think it sends kind of a mixed message. It's like I thought the whole purpose of this takeover of HISD was to really regulate what happens in these schools, and so the ones that are doing the best. Well, you can go figure out what you want to do. Outside people are going to plan what. It's like it's to have. I don't understand.
And it puts a real question mark. Not just we are already looking at so much speculation and skepticism when we look into public schools and school voucher at a state level. Mm-hmm. For me, it really puts a big question mark on what is the future of Houston's public education.
Right.
And I think that is what's so sad and concerning is that we just continue to move away from community. We saw, multiple schools being shut down. 12 schools got closed. And again, it's sad to me.
Yeah.
Well, they're there, and it's been approved, so I guess we'll see how it goes.
I mean, if you use it as like a boilerplate, a template of what works in a school, look at these top performing schools. So first of all, you can willing to take a risk because these schools already perform well.
Yeah.
They try new initiatives. Then if those initiatives work, then sending them out through the rest of the system, then I would probably be okay if that's what they're doing.
And I think that from an administrative level, a lot of schools, when the TEA came in, a lot of schools felt like they were losing their autonomy. The principals, the administrators, the autonomy over, their type of decision making when it came to curriculum, when it came to these things. They were basically told, this is what you can choose from, which is not necessarily different, but I think for a long time, there was a lot of autonomy within the schools. And I think that the push, essentially saying the top performing schools will now be able to work with this outside organization, is saying that, well, we're giving the schools their autonomy again. But then the question becomes, do they have that, or do they have to follow the outside organizations?
You know, if you work in one of these schools or understand the situation differently than we're talking about it right now, maybe you see the pros and cons of this move, give us a call at 713-440-8870. I'd love to know more about this.
Yeah. Because what if you change schools?
Right.
And you go from one school to one of these other 4 schools. Do you suddenly not understand what's going on because it's being managed differently than the other 50 schools in the system?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I would also be very interested. I didn't dive deep into too much of this, but I would also be very interested to see other school districts that have done something similar and have seen benefits from it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we can look at case studies where there are other districts. What makes it so hard for HISD is the size when we look at other areas. But again,
maybe that'll be a good thing.
713-440-8870.
A couple little tidbits that we'll hit on before we wrap things up. Whataburger bringing back the bacon steakhouse double and banana pudding shake for a limited time only starting March 31st. Are either of you the type of people who wait for these things that pop up in like the Shamrock Shake or the McRib, or in this case, the banana pudding shake? Are those things that are on your calendar?
No, but I have a feeling, are they on yours?
No, really. Of all people on this panel, it would be me. And
whatever happened to that lawsuit where the McRib got sued because it wasn't really
and it didn't have any rib in it? No rib meat?
Those really bananas in that shake, Ernie?
Yeah.
I'm sure they are.
We have Sean is asking us on YouTube, can we get a follow-up report on how the grilled pot pie turned out? Your neighbor sounds like a real character. All my neighbors are real characters. That's, I think, the prerequisite to move into our little complex. I don't know. He didn't complain. I saw him on Saturday. We're going to go over to that night lights down by the bayou.
How was that?
We never went. They all went, but we ended up not going. Foot injury for a friend of mine who didn't want to walk, so we stayed back. But I don't know. I'll follow up on that and give you a full report. How about something else? Tell me if this is going to affect either of you or any of you listening. The cost of the standard Netflix subscription is going up by $2 to $19.99. The second price hike in the last year. What do you think? Cable sounding like a good idea to anybody at this point.
I know it does sort of, once we're all addicted to the internet, then it won't matter if you cut the cable cord because we're all on the internet streaming. So they'll get their money one way or the other. It's like, cut the cord. All of the cable prices are so high and it's so cheap to be streaming. Well, trust me, you can't stream without the internet.
Right.
And the people providing the internet still own the internet. Why do you think Elon Musk is putting Starlink up there 4,000 satellites a day? He's going to own the internet. Then he'll own all of us.
In my defense, I had no idea this was going to get this deep. Frank really has an opinion on this one. I'm just curious if, by the end of the day, with all your subscriptions, are you paying more than you did for cable a few years ago when it was just pay one price and have
I don't know. We have it all, so I have no idea what it is.
But coming up on Hello Houston, Darren Bush, professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center, will break down the newly filed antitrust bill. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Communities that aren't growing as rapidly just have fewer deposits to attract.
I'm Kai Rizdal. Size matters. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace coming up tonight. It's on at 6:30.
Want to binge All Creatures Great and Small? Catch up on Nova? Or revisit Ken Burns documentaries? You can with PBS Passport. With a gift of $5 or more per month to Houston Public Media, you'll get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
The idea of taxing billionaires is alluring, but it comes with more strings attached than you'd think.
Anyone who tries to tell you they can give you that welfare state without raising your taxes is lying.
Why the billionaire tax might be short-sighted. That's next time on Think.
You can listen to Think coming up tonight. It's on at 11 o'clock.
Support comes from Port Houston, delivering access to international markets for everything made and grown in Texas. Port Houston operates the public port terminals and advocates for Houston's port and ship channel, all for the benefit of those who live and work in the region.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, Ken Burns presents a 3-part documentary on author Henry David Thoreau, whose words still resonate urgently with today's challenges. Part 1 and 2 premiere tonight at 8 on TV8.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
This month's settlement between the Justice Department and Live Nation is once again drawing attention to antitrust enforcement in the U.S., with some lawmakers arguing that current laws don't go far enough to address how monopolies corner markets and kill competition. At the same time, new legislation from Senator Amy Klobuchar aims to strengthen oversight of these kinds of deals and increase transparency in how they're reviewed. To tell us more, we welcome Darren Bush, professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center, who specializes in antitrust policy. He recently wrote about his support for this newly filed antitrust bill. Professor Bush, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So let's just kind of high level, what does this Justice Department settlement with Live Nation actually signal about, about the state of antitrust enforcement right now?
Well, that's a complicated subject, but to give you the short of it, it's not a pretty picture. There was a lot of ambition in the Biden administration to sort of roll back some of the increases in monopoly power and other things that happened, since the 70s, and that's been kind of put on hold by the Trump administration's DOJ and the Federal Trade Commission.
To be clear, Live Nation owns Ticketmaster, and we've all seen the prices spike. I mean, the way Live Nation has been going about their business has been almost draconian. They own everything. If you're trying to sell tickets, like you're Eventbrite trying to sell tickets, they won't let you. They won't let you into certain venues. They owned 13 venues. Make it clear to us about why this needed to be done.
Well, the original merger, when it went through, the notion was there would be a competing ticket seller. And that didn't necessarily come to fruition. And so Ticketmaster, combined with Live Nation, owns venues. It has exclusive contracts with venues. It has its own, ticketing portal. And so ticketing competitors can't get into the market. And they also have a position in the secondary market. When people buy a group of tickets and then they resell them, right? So that creates a whole lot of problems that the antitrust suit was designed to eliminate. And it's, right now some of the states are still continuing that suit.
This kind of reminds me, and help me understand what lessons we can learn from that, and also why they're not being applied to this situation. But back at in the early 1900s, when the movie studios also owned the theaters where they showed their films, and they went in there and they broke that all up. Why aren't we understanding that lesson today, or what is different about this situation?
Well, first of all, you know the old expression from Santayana: those who don't learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it. But the second part is modern. It was at one point modern economics in the 70s started to infiltrate the antitrust laws, and the whole notion there is that you could actually do more harm than good by trying to cure some of these anti-competitive effects, and so that kind of in medicine, it's the Hippocratic Oath: above all, do no harm. Well, in this case, the antitrust laws are basically don't do anything and let competition die. And so that's what we've been doing for quite some time, since the 70s. And the Biden administration tried to bring back some antitrust enforcement as it was intended, and it seemed to have the brakes have been put on that.
Let me just one second. Let me flip it to the other side of this argument. If I just happen to build a better mousetrap, and nobody builds as good a mousetrap, so they all go out of business because mine's so good, why should I be penalized?
You're not. So if you build the better mousetrap and you have 100% of the market share, that's totally legal under the antitrust laws, and you can charge whatever price you want. Now, on the other hand, if you start to do other things, the bully competitors trying to build a better mousetrap when they enter the market, start locking up potential customers, threatening your customers, threatening input suppliers, then you're not competing on the merits of your innovation. You're being a bully.
Right. If you try to build a better mousetrap than me, and anyone's selling you the metal for it, I'm going to penalize them.
Right.
And that's the problem. So what do you think about Klobuchar's bill? I mean, as a Democrat, I'm not sure that it's going to really go anywhere.
Well, even if you're not a Democrat, I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere.
Good point.
So, back when this bill was, when the Tunney Act was first passed in 1974, my co-author, John Flynn, helped write it. And then in 2004, we tried to, Congress, passed an amendment to it that tried to improve the Tunney Act. And that's been kind of ignored by the courts. So have been a fan of modifying the Tunney Act for many years. So what the Tunney Act does is when the DOJ has a settlement, they have to file with the court a complaint and a competitive impact statement and a proposed final judgment saying how this remedies the harms and that the settlement's in the public interest. Up until very recently, no one has ever rejected a consent decree that's been proposed by the DOJ, and in the DC Circuit, the case law is such that the judges really can't. The DC Circuit considers this to be a separation of powers issue, and if you rejected a consent decree, that tramples prosecutorial discretion. So what Klobuchar's bill does is three things. One, it tries to clear up that separation of powers problem that really doesn't exist, but the DC Circuit thinks it does. Second, it incorporates the Federal Trade Commission, the other antitrust agency. The FTC had its own rules, and given that the FTC's chair now says they're executive branch agency as opposed to an independent agency, it kind of makes sense that they play by the same rules. And the third thing it does is it says that until there's the decrees entered by the court, that the merging parties have to hold separate. They can't start their merger. They can't get married before the preacher says it's okay. And that's been a problem lately, too, because no one has really rejected a consent decree before, except one case.
Mm-hmm. So how does this then affect me, Frank, Celeste, when we go to buy tickets? Currently, right now, where are we feeling the pain of this, and where do we find solution or restitution for it?
Good luck with the restitution. So the settlement. The settlement really requires the some linking for competitor ticket sales for Ticketmaster, and it requires them to I think sell off a couple of venues, but it doesn't get to the meat of what was really the problem with the Ticketmaster Live Nation merger. Mm-hmm. So I think the consent decree for you, that doesn't do much, but under a revised Tunney Act, we get to see why they dropped the case so quickly, and why, and perhaps why Gail Slater, who was the Assistant Attorney General for Antitrust, suddenly quit. We might get to find that kind of stuff out. Well, but Taylor, there's a trial still going on. The states are still suing to do more than just this.
Is this all part of what Taylor Swift got so upset about?
Yes, and before that, Pearl Jam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you go way back, I mean, this has been a problem for decades, right? And I can tell by your reaction, you're like, Pearl Jam, who are they?
No, so, I was going to say, and recently Live Nation executives were in the headlines just a few weeks ago talking about robbing fans blind. How does this kind of, robbing them on fees, and then, talking about it pretty openly that they kind of had this grip on the market. How does that work into all of this?
Well, that was a document I think that was discovered in the course of discovery for this litigation. Mm-hmm. And companies surprisingly say that quite frequently. Even if they have antitrust counsel saying, for goodness sake, don't do that. They put things in writing that are pretty atrocious. You get, so you get the notion that they're really out and trying to be nice, kindly companies, but deep down you discover that that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
So we have a remark that they did break up AT&T, right? I remember meeting a lawyer one time in the 80s, and I'd just say, so what do you do? He said, I'm part of the AT&T breakup, and I've been working on this case for 8 years. How long did it take for them to break AT&T up? Do you remember? It took forever.
Well, did they? It's back together now. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's the point. That's a point.
So it took them a while. They broke them up in 82, and remember you had the baby bells. And then AT&T slowly started to consolidate again, and that's part of the problem of antitrust too, where you break up these companies for good reason, and then for some reason they get back together. Colbert, when he had the Colbert Report, even had a joke about that, like it's the T100 of companies. No matter how many pieces you break it up, they always come back together.
We are speaking with Darren Bush, professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center. If you would like to join the conversation, if you have a question for Professor Bush, you can call or text 713-440-8870. So there seems to be a real policy gap here, and it seems like when we look at it, there are bills being moved and by Senator Amy Klobuchar trying to, strengthen oversight, but there's been a lot of pushback, and the pushback is where, and I'm curious if there's any argument there where maybe there could be some type of overcorrection happening.
Well, in order for there to be overcorrection, there would first have to be correction, and I haven't seen that yet.
Right.
And so really, if the DOJ files a complaint and says, "Judge, we're settling. Here's the proposed final judgment." In the D.C. Circuit right now, the court pretty much has to enter that decree absent some nefarious activity by DOJ. The HPP, there's another Tunney Act hearing, HPE Juniper, where there's some discussion about whether or not some of those things have been happening. So I'm hoping for more transparency, that the laws are being enforced according to how the laws are meant to be enforced, and not because of some backdoor deals.
And
so
maybe
that's what I'm hoping to get out of it.
Well, this penalty that just came down, let me ask you what your opinion is of this. The penalty that came down was $260 million or $280 million to Live Nation. Well, they made $25 billion just last year. So this is like, I don't know, this is like if I have $25 charging me a quarter as a penalty. It's just nothing compared to what they really make. They'll make that up in one day. So what do you think about the penalty? Does it really say anything to them?
I use almost exact same analogy in class. I say, if I steal someone's wallet, and I'm from San Bernardino, so it's possible I could, but if I steal someone's wallet and the penalty is only that I have to give some of that money back, that's every incentive to continue stealing wallets, right?
Right.
So that penalty is almost nothing. It doesn't deter at all. And there's actually been some studies that suggest that if you come, for criminal antitrust even, no matter how much the penalties and no matter how you value the jail time, it always pays to cheat.
I'm a little curious. What do you think the message this settlement is sending out to other industries and other folks that are possibly playing in similar games?
Doors open. Come on in. Make me an offer. I can't refuse.
Yeah, water's warm.
And I think and I think that's a problem. And it's not just a President Trump problem. There was an airline merger between United and U.S. Airways, and there was a big, bold complaint that was filed saying there's nothing that can cure this airline merger. And the mayor of Chicago, who happened to be President Obama's former chief of staff, made a visit to the White House, and then all of a sudden there was a settlement. So it's not just this administration; it's happened in others as well.
You'd think that the consumer could have gotten something out of it, like cheaper ticket prices than thousands of dollars for some of these performances, but I don't guess that's going to happen either.
Well, if for the private plaintiff suits, if you're a member of the private plaintiff of the class, you could get your 10-cent coupon. And,
Okay. Seems like you always get about 30 cents when that happens, but
and then under state antitrust laws, indirect purchasers can sue as well, and so you can get another 10-cent coupon, and so.
But going to a concert isn't something you need to survive in this world. And so therefore, you don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to go to these things. Isn't really the power in the hands of the consumer to say, these prices are too much, we're just not paying them. And if they don't pay them, they're not going to charge them. Isn't that how we're supposed to control this?
Well, there used to be I used to teach another class called Regulated Industries, where we did talk about things such as necessities. And so if there is a monopoly over necessities and you couldn't fix it by any other means, you would regulate it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I agree with you that music isn't a necessity of life, but maybe not concerts. There's different ways you could actually, cure these markets. And regulation is certainly one of them. There's several states who are thinking about sort of price caps for tickets.
I'm saying if the consumers come together and say, we're not going to pay that, I mean, the only reason these things work is because people are willing to pay it. And as they raise the price, somehow or other, people find money to continue to pay them, so the price keeps going up. They're going to hit a point where people aren't going to pay it anymore, you assume. At least the casual concert goer can't afford it. There'll always be the titans of industry that can pay whatever it is, but they're not going to fill stadiums.
Well, there's two reasons that it's always been the case that a monopolist can't charge any price it wants. Mm-hmm. It is limited by demand in any circumstances. But if some group of people decide they no longer want to go to concerts, there's I can do many different things with seating, price discrimination across seating. I can play with prices for people who are less elastic and not willing to do the boycott, and I can offer some discounts to those who are trying to boycott and try to break that up. So there's ways to play with that market, even if some group of you say, I won't take this anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And, Darren, zooming out a little bit, do you think that we are at a turning point in antitrust laws in the U.S., or do you think this is just more talk without real insight for change?
For a period of a few years, I was getting really excited about teaching antitrust and the fact that we were actually maybe doing something about large corporations, because this affects small businesses. I'm a very big fan of small business. It affects labor. I'm a very big fan of that. And it affects our, democracy as these companies become bigger and bigger. And I'm a very big fan of democracy too. So I was very excited. But now it's kind of turning back to to do nothing. And that's never a good option.
Darren Bush is a Leonard B. Rosenberg Professor of Law, University of Houston Law Center. Darren, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Coming up, the Houston Grand Opera's new season. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
This is an area that knows manufacturing.
Could high tariffs on foreign competitors give a helpful push? That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear that today. It's on at 3 o'clock.
The Supreme Court hears a case this week on the president's attempts to change the meaning of birthright citizenship. How the court decides could affect hundreds of thousands of newborns in the U.S. and the rights they get at birth. Next time on 1A, we hear what's behind the case and why birthright citizenship is a legal bedrock of the country.
Listen to 1A that starts today at 2 o'clock.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear from people who really make you think, like astrophysicist Brian Greene explaining the scientific theory that our universe is just one of many.
And the image that I like to have in mind is, imagine that our universe is like one slice of bread in a much grander cosmic loaf, with the other slices of bread being other universes.
No subject is too big for Fresh Air. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from CertaPro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management, estimates and more at CertaPro.com. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Last week, Houston Grand Opera announced its upcoming 2026-27 season with Written in the Stars selected as its theme. The new season features 6 operas consisting of 2 American masterpieces, a Verdi classic, and celebrated works from world-famous composers including Gounod, Mozart, and Strauss. To tell us more about this new season, we're again welcoming our good friend Khori Dastoor, the General Director and CEO of Houston Grand Opera. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
Hello. Happy Monday. We're glad you're here.
Okay, before we get into it, how long did it take to put this season together?
Well, we are working on 2030-31, so it is a constant process over many years of curating not only the titles, but the creators, the artists, the singers, everything to make sure that we're bringing the best of the world right here to Houston.
See, and I bring that up because I don't think people think about it in those terms. You think like Broadway series, they see what's on tour and what can come and make it here. You guys are finding, is this singer available? This is the role for them. Can we get them here? Do we have this? It's so much, I don't know how you do it without going insane.
Well, that's the thing, because we're not importing art from other places. We're creating it here in Houston, and oftentimes it'll go on after it appears in Houston, as our Silent Night went on to be seen at the Metropolitan Opera after it opened here in Houston. So you're right, it's an entirely different process, engined by creators and artists that live right in our backyard.
Yeah.
Can you really have an understudy in opera?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
You always need a plan B, C, D, and E, right?
When you're planning 5 years, 6 years ahead, how do you plan that?
Well, of course, there are things that change. And of course, we want to be able to adapt the things that are living, in our city and produce art that feels of the moment and vibrant. But what it really comes down to is securing global superstars. And the reason we picked our season theme is because these are the most famous, most sought after artists in all of opera. They sing everywhere over the world, so they're booked years and years out. And if you're going to produce Faust, you better know who's going to sing Faust. And if it's going to be an artist of the caliber like Matthew Polenzani, you need to get on his dance card pretty early.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so take us into the season, and we'll talk about each show as we go. You're opening with
Susanna. So, this whole season is kind of, if you want to think about it, Ernie, a People's Choice really medley. We are, these classics are celebrated for a reason. Every year, hundreds, even thousands of new operas get made. The ones we remember over centuries are just the best of the best of the best. And this season is chock full of them. We're honoring, of course, our nation's 250th birthday this year, but also honoring the 100-year anniversary of Showboat, kind of the great American masterwork, and the centennial of Carlisle Floyd, of course, a composer so, so dear to our hearts here at Houston Grand Opera. And his masterpiece, Susanna, opens our season with Angel Blue in the title role, something that we are extraordinarily excited about. If you can believe it, it's been 30 years since we produced Susanna, one of the most enduring new operas of the century. So it's Appalachian melodies, its relatable story, and its high drama are going to be such an incredible experience for our audiences. And pairing Angel with Rod Gilfrey, I couldn't be more excited about that one.
And I would say Susanna feels so Americana. Like I think
Absolutely.
you hear the music
Absolutely.
and you do really feel that kind of American pride, and it's big.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was Renee Fleming, another one of our own, who really championed this role and brought it into the repertoire, and to have, the baton now passed to Angel, who's such an incredible American artist, again, in demand all over the world, but understanding and contributing to opera as an American language with those folk melodies and just beautiful, beautiful music. We're thrilled.
And that is going to premiere October 23rd, but the next week, you already mentioned it, what follows it?
Faust.
A little known piece.
Wow. The thing that's going to make this Faust so special, well, there's a couple of things. Matthew, of course, singing it for the first time. This opulent production from Covent Garden, from Royal Opera House and Ballet, which explodes with dance. And I think people don't really associate French opera with dance, but they should, because all of these grand operas were created for opera companies that had resident ballet companies. So it's the full epic spectacle, of course, with Ildebrando D'Arcangelo, the reigning Mephistopheles, around Halloween doing
I was going to say, don't miss the fact it's Halloween.
Yes. And, I don't know if y'all have been talking about Timothée Chalamet on the show recently, but he hasn't.
Is he
I wasn't sure if we were going to go there, but we're going to go there.
We're going there, and I'll tell you why. Pretty Yendi. When I am in the streets of Paris with Pretty, we are mobbed everywhere. This woman is an ambassador of Dior. She is the face of Groff Jewelers. She sang at the coronation of King Charles. She sang at the opening of the Notre Dame. You don't have a more culturally iconic person than Pretty Yendi. And of course, having her make her Houston debut has us all counting down. We're thrilled.
So did you invite Timothée Chalamet to your series, to the season?
He's always invited.
Always invited.
We seek to educate children of all ages.
So whenever we see opera on any movie, in any television show or series, everyone's always dressed up. That's the Hollywood version of opera.
Sure. Pretty Woman and all of that.
Yes. And so is that still true?
Oh, it's Houston. We see everything.
Oh, do we ever?
Yeah.
We see what I saw at the Beyonce concert, and we see what I see at the public library.
Don't see everything
we
you saw
do.
At the Beyonce
We really
concert.
do. And that's what I love, is that people feel comfortable expressing themselves. The arts are about that, right? If nothing else.
So don't feel like you can't come if you don't have a tux in the closet.
Of course. No. Yeah. Rarely are we in tuxes.
Yeah.
But I will say something really interesting is when we survey young folks who are new to the opera, that special occasion experience is a lot of what they're seeking.
Yeah.
And so we welcome that too.
But accessibility is something you've worked really hard on too in your tenure here, is to say, this is our art form. This is open to the community. It isn't just the high-end movie version of it. It's art for everyone.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. It's funny because, we're doing the Barber of Seville right now, which, of course, tunes we all learned at Bugs Bunny. And the hardest thing about opera is with this language barrier, letting people know, this music, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what it's called maybe, or you don't know how to find it on Apple Classical easily, but you hear the melodies. They're as much a part of you as anyone else. And absolutely, come enjoy it.
And I think that a big part of this, Khori, is the fact that you are a mom, that you get, sometimes you want to tell your kids and you look at them and you say, you do know these things. Yeah. You just haven't experienced it, or you can't connect it yet, and I think that's a big part of the fact that I love that you are the head of our opera here.
Thank you so much, Celeste. It drives me every day. I see so many technologies coming online for our kids. I see so much of their day being eaten up by devices. And I just know what's good for their brains. And I know that challenging them to be present and to be listening and enjoying with friends, and that muscle is so important to flex, and really truly for all of us, right? No matter what our age, let's put the phone down for a minute, tap into some of the most beautiful music humanity has ever created, and really feel grateful.
Is there any way to have a favorite?
Oh, well, Houston's favorite is Aida, just so you know. Aida opened Jones Hall. It opened the Wortham Theater Center. I think everything's bigger in Texas. We love Aida, the spectacle. And we had Placido Domingo come. We had Merla Frainie do it.
Wow. So who's coming January 22nd in your Aida?
The very best in the world. Eileen Perez interpreting the title role, which is a new role for her in Canesa Shaw's extraordinary production, which is really flooding the African diaspora and all of those visual traditions into this work for the very first time, in partnership with Jonathan Tettleman, who had a huge success here, incredible reigning tenor, the return of Rayhan Bryce Davis, Lucas Meacham, star-studded cast with that Aida, and pairing that with Magic Flute, which is always a family favorite and sells out. So people who want to get flute this time, we're setting it in a boutique Viennese hotel, and it is all about food. So our young lovers have to learn to chop and fricassee and do and taste wines, and we're in this very hyper masculine world of fine French haute French dining, and so it's just a thrilling, whimsical take on a classic that we see bring new audiences to Mozart time and time again. One of the most really enduring pieces that we have in the entire canon.
Before we run out of time chit-chatting, I do want you to do the last two pieces then that are going to be in your season, so
Thanks,
folks
Ernie.
know.
So again, returning after 3 decades absence, Der Rosenkavalier, which is a Strauss work that is truly a bucket list title. Only a very, very elite group of opera companies in the world attempt this title. We have Tammy Wilson, homegrown favorite, and now the world's reigning Brunhilde returning to sing the Marschallin for the first time. It'll be extraordinarily beautiful evening of German masterpiece paired with Showboat,
Oh,
of
my
course.
Lord. Yeah.
Just the most beautiful and gut-wrenching score, starring Isabel Leonard, who took Houston by storm in Sound of Music and is returning now as Julie.
And for folks who sometimes think, well, that's a musical, that's not an opera. Explain.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, Old Man River really requires all the classical training of any other aria. And with the performing forces that we put up there, hundreds and hundreds of artists, you get to hear these classics as you won't hear them on Broadway anymore. They're not doing 90-piece orchestras. They're not doing 100 people in the chorus. So it's an entirely different experience to see it brought to thrilling life as Jerome Kern intended.
Yeah, well, to find out about all of this and so much more, you can go to HoustonGrandOpera.org.
Oh, I hope to see you guys there. It's
Oh,
going
you
to be
will.
so fun.
Khori Dastoor is the General Director and CEO of Houston Grand Opera. Khori, it's always great to have you in studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We're also going to discuss how federal prosecutors are handling immigration cases at the southern border. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
I'm Stephen Dubner. On the next Freakonomics Radio, wherever there is history being made, the commodity traders are there. Commodity traders often operate in the shadows, and their reach is enormous.
They are the bankers of last resort, and they're almost like diplomats for hire.
The most powerful people you've never heard of. That's next time on Freakonomics Radio.
Coming up tonight at 10 o'clock.
Support comes from the Houston Symphony, presenting actor John Malkovich in The Music Critic, a comedic concert blending classical music and commentary featuring works by Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven. April 14th at Jones Hall. More at houstonsymphony.org.
This weather update brought to you by JAMS mediator and arbitrator Paul D. Clote. Today, mostly sunny. Up to around 84 for the high. Partly cloudy tonight, a low near 67. Slight chance of a thunderstorm tomorrow. Currently it's 77. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, White House border czar Tom Homan is saying ICE agents could remain in U.S. airports even after TSA workers get their paychecks. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. We'll also talk with Perla Trevizo, a reporter with the ProPublica-Texas Tribune investigative unit, who will discuss how federal prosecutors are handling immigration cases at the southern border. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll also talk with Reflections on Style Chair Lesha Elsenbrook about the Salvation Army of Greater Houston's upcoming Chic Boutique event. We want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump says the U.S. is in serious discussions to end the war in Iran. He claims progress has been made. He also says if the economically vital Strait of Hormuz does not open for business immediately, more attacks will come. Here's NPR's Deepa Shivaram.
Trump posted on social media that a deal with Iran will probably be reached. But if it doesn't, he says the U.S. will resume attacks on Iran, specifically on their electrical plants, oil wells, and Karg Island. Trump says the island holds a large majority of Iran's oil exports. He also threatened Iran's desalination plants. The president had previously said that Iran had until April 6th to open the strait. The White House did not respond to requests for comment on whether Trump's newest post negates that initial deadline. Deepa Shivaram, NPR News, the White House.
Russia says its oil tanker has arrived in Cuba, which has been facing blackouts and an effective U.S. blockade. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports that the Russians say they notified the United States in advance.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says Russia has a duty to help its friends in Cuba and raised the issue of the tanker with U.S. officials ahead of time. A senior Trump administration official tells NPR that President Trump is allowing this ship to reach Cuba for humanitarian purposes. These decisions are made on a case-by-case basis, the official wrote in an email, adding that Cuba's economy won't be fixed until there's dramatic political change. President Trump told reporters on Sunday that he's focused on Iran right now, but in his words, Cuba will be next. He says it doesn't bother him if Russia or any other countries want to send a boat of oil. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
The U.S. Embassy in Caracas, Venezuela is formally open again. The State Department saying it has resumed normal operations at the site that was shut down for 7 years since Trump's first term in office. Washington restored full diplomatic relations after U.S. troops conducted a raid in January and seized then Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife to face drug trafficking charges in New York. Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, workers are supposed to be getting paid again. The expectation was paychecks would start going out today under President Trump's emergency order. This even though Congress has been unable to strike a deal on funding DHS and end the shutdown. After weeks working without pay, Georgia-based union rep Aaron Barker says TSA workers deserve $10,000 bonuses for what they've been through.
We've had a lot of officers that have been evicted. Their cars have been repossessed. You have the negative impacts, late fees, and all of those things. Those numbers pile up. So that $10,000 would assist in recouping some of the things that have negatively impacted their finances in their life.
That's Union Representative Aaron Barker. At last check on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 250 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gail DeLauder. Officials say they're as prepared as possible to launch Artemis 2 on Wednesday. The 4 astronauts who plan to fly around the moon and back are now in quarantine in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Here's mission specialist Christina Cook.
It is our strong hope that this mission is the start of an era where every person on Earth can look at the moon and think of it as also a destination.
Artemis 2 will be the first crewed mission to the moon in more than 50 years. A community group in Galveston County is discussing plans for a desalination plant. News 88.7's Juliana Washburn has more.
Canadian-based utility company Epcor Utilities is seeking a permit to build a desalination plant to help with water security in the region. The plant would remove salt and minerals from seawater to produce over 24 million gallons of drinking water a day. Some nearby residents, like Gina Smith, are worried about the impact the plant's discharge would have on marine life.
There is a water issue that's happening. We need to address that issue. We need to do it in the safest way possible. You can't just throw away your community because you need water. You've got to make a choice about what works and what doesn't work, and we need to think hard about it.
Epcor representatives were also at the meeting to answer questions and address concerns. Representatives have repeatedly said the plant would have a minimal impact on the environment. From the Galveston County Bureau, I'm Juliana Washburn, News 88.7.
New data from the U.S. Census Bureau indicates population growth is slowing in the state's big cities. It's partially driven by fewer people moving from other countries, but the state is continuing to add new residents, mostly in suburban counties. The Astros play the Boston Red Sox tonight. First pitch at Daikin Park is just after 7. Breezy this afternoon, high near 84 degrees. Tonight's low should be around 68. I'm Gail DeLauder, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Thanks for joining us for the second hour of Hello Houston. We had a really interesting, jam-packed first hour.
Yes. I have to say, I love Khori, and I love hearing what's going on at HGO. I don't go to the opera as much as I would like to. I have the opportunity, but I haven't been to as much, and I need to get back into it. And this season, just hit after hit after hit.
Her enthusiasm, too, makes you want to go and check it out. Because
we talked about it a little bit. It's a big thing about her coming in here was that the accessibility of opera. So many people have felt that it's out of reach. And so they do pricing for all parts of the community. They do outside Jumbotron casts. They go to Miller Outdoor Theater. They have lots of opportunities to expose folks. And they have opera on the go, and they go into schools, and they really work to make it more part of the community. And the thing that I always remind people is opera is just huge theater. If you love musical theater, this is it on steroids.
Yeah.
You know, like she was saying, she can have a chorus of 100 people. You're not going to get that in a Broadway show.
Right.
And the costs of it, yes, a lot of the tickets are very high-end and expensive. And there's also the underwriting and all that to produce these massive productions you'll see nowhere else. It's fascinating. And it does combine acting and music and dance and theater craft and
And Houston's lucky to have it. As we mentioned before, we have opera, ballet, symphony, theater.
And they're all world class.
And we have it all. I mean, how many cities? I've never heard of the Atlanta Grand Opera. They might have one, but you just don't.
They have them, but at the caliber that we have it, and all functioning, and in our theater district, to have a resident ballet, a resident opera, a resident musical theater, and a resident drama house, all producing at the same time, a symphony. We are very fortunate.
Speaks to how well supported it is, both financially and just attendance. Nobody wants to play to an empty house, and we don't have that problem.
I guarantee you, if you want to go and see the opera, there is a pricing level to get you in. You just call the box office. They will find a way to make it work for you.
And not really shifting gears, but, Titanic, with Ty Blue is from Houston. And he's the producer, and it's been on Off-Broadway for about 4 years
Titanic
now.
is a parody comedy musical theater event that started Off-Broadway by a local Ty Blue from Houston. It is played Off-Broadway. It went to the West End in London, and last week it premiered on Broadway.
Yeah, the St. James Theater. And
isn't that awesome?
It's awesome. I've never known anyone that
got a show to Broadway.
But Ty did it. So
if I remember,
and it's hysterical. I've seen it 3 times.
I've never seen it.
Oh, see, you'll love it when you go to New York. Next time you go, you should definitely, and I'm sure you have Ty on your Rolodex. You should call and say, Ty, I want a ticket. It's well worth it.
And Ariana Grande's brother, Frankie Grande, just performed in Titanic.
Well, is he back in it? He was in it when it was Off-Broadway, and she came to it. When we were there for one of the performances, Kelly Clarkson was there to see it. Yeah. So a lot of the big names love it and go to see it. It's a Celine Dion take. It's all the Celine Dion songs, and it's this hysterical take on what really happened to the Titanic. And it's just so funny. And we're far enough away from the movie that, especially if you saw the movie many, many, many times, the movie still plays, that you remember so much of it. And anyway, no one ever comes out of Titanic saying that was not worth it. Everyone's loving it.
Well, and I think it has something to do with the huge success of Oh Mary. That Broadway is starting to realize, you know what?
Let's be funny.
Let's get back to comedy.
Yeah, Neil Simon was not a flash pan, right?
Yeah. So. Also, a very last note on that, and then we will move on, is the whole fact that it came out of them sitting around, Ty and his friends, just playing this game, writing this show that was going to be everything they wanted in a comedy parody show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And eventually they produced it, and then it grew, and congratulations to Ty, and he won an Olivier Award for it.
Well, so now he's eligible. Now he's eligible for a Tony, right? Now that it's on Broadway.
Yep.
So have those nominations come out for this year yet?
No, not yet.
So would he be eligible now?
Yes, he opened within the window.
Great. Well, I hope he wins.
There you go.
Yep. That would be even more awesome.
And the weather's great outside.
It's great today. We're looking for some rain chances as we move into the all-important weekend, and of course it's Easter weekend, so. We'll keep a close eye on it, but I would have at least an awareness that we could see some rain, especially Saturday.
Yeah.
I know
okay.
We need it, but I don't want it on the weekend.
Coming up, we're going to be talking about immigration, but right now it's headlines. Celeste, take it away.
Immigration and custom enforcement agents could remain at U.S. airports even after TSA workers begin receiving pay. This is according to the White House border czar, Tom Homan. Speaking on TNN's State of the Union, Homan said there's a plan to get TSA employees paid as soon as today or tomorrow. The Department of Homeland Security has not confirmed an exact timeline, though a social media post Friday indicated paychecks could start going out as early as Monday. The move comes after President Trump signed a memo directing pay using existing funds, despite no new funding from Congress. Meanwhile, House Republicans rejected a bipartisan deal to reopen DHS, extending the shutdown that's causing major airport delays, with lawmakers not returning until April 13th. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. What are your thoughts on the move by the Trump administration to get TSA paid? And do you think ICE should stay at airports? You can call 713-440-8870. You can also send a text to that same number.
Well, it's working. If you go to the TSA line online to see how long the lines are, Terminal A says 5 minutes and Terminal E says 10. So even if they're wrong by 20 or 30 minutes or
Yeah.
a lot shorter than 4 hours.
But see, that goes back to my problem I always have with surveys, too, is understanding the landscape. So, yes, lines are shorter. How many less people are traveling because they've seen all the horrors of last week's stories and they've said, you know what, we're not going to travel this week. We're going to drive. We're going to bus. We're going to do something else because this is so crazy. And so, of course, the lines are shorter. So maybe both things are having an effect.
That's a fair question. I think a lot of people had hope. You know, that the longer this goes badly, the quicker they will come to the rescue. Somebody will come to the rescue because of the public pressure. And that is what happened.
Yeah.
So,
but a quick side note, too. Only TSA are getting paychecks. The rest of Homeland Security isn't.
Well,
because
ICE is funded through 2029.
Right, but the funding package they've been talking about, the president just stepped around to pay the TSA because of the issues they were having there, still leaves people without paychecks.
So should I still be there? We've made our point.
Should I still be there? You said ICE still be there.
What do you think? ICE should still be there?
No.
No.
I mean, no.
Well,
I mean,
we don't know what they were doing there in the first place because they didn't seem to be doing services
It was
that
a rehearsal for the midterms.
And I think that there's a lot of attention right now looking at TSA and looking at airports and looking at lines, and it really takes away from the fact that here we are, political gridlock in Washington is causing real world consequences. So people that say, well, that doesn't affect me, whatever happens doesn't happen to me. No, this is a perfect example of here we are and our elected officials cannot come to an agreement. And so now we're having to deal with the situation.
Oh, Celeste, I feel like you just set me up for this, but I will go. That's why voting is so important.
Absolutely.
When you see things like this and you think, how do these things happen? It's the people we put in office that allow these things to happen. So you get out there and you vote and you let your voice be heard.
And we've forgotten the National Guard is still in places like Washington, D.C.
Yep.
I saw them yesterday. We were at a part of Washington called the Wharf, which is right there at the Tidal Basin area. And sure enough, there they were. Now they were just walking along and said hello, and that was it. They don't have any real teeth in that situation of guarding. But what we aren't talking about or not talking about is what? The Epstein files. No, we're talking about war and ICE and National Guard and not the Epstein files.
Well, there was no Saturday Night Live this week, but in the UK there was a Saturday Night Live because they have the new Saturday Night Live UK, and they were talking about the Epstein files.
Well, they've been roasting the former Prince Andrew.
Again, 713-440-8870. You're listening to News 88.7. Let's go to Rick from the Fifth Ward. Rick, welcome to Hello Houston. What are your thoughts or comments on this?
There you are,
we
Rick.
can all be talking about many topics all at one time. The folks who want to be talking about Epstein files are free to talk about them, and they are. But the original point was, I'm fine with ICE being at the airport. I don't see a problem with that yet. I would like to see, more importantly, that when some part of government goes unfunded, not because they reduce the budget, but because they don't have a budget, that the legislators stop getting paid and they are required to stay in town, in session, until they solve whatever the problem is and pass whatever they need to pass. That's what I want to see.
Rick, I think a lot of people would agree with you. They have not, I mean, if we're at work and we don't finish our work, we've got to finish our work before we can go home or make sure that it gets done before the work is needed. So I think it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when they can go on a break until April 13th without voting. Now, I know there have been some calls for them to come back to solve this problem, but until they do.
Yeah, they're on Easter break, too.
Yep.
April 13th, as you said. But, yeah, of course, tying the legislature's salaries to the government being open only makes sense.
Right.
Because, as we've seen, these government shutdowns are all political. They're not financial. It's not where, well, we just don't have the money, but give us a month to figure out where to get the money and we'll come up with it. That's not what it's about. It's about, you're not doing what I want in that bill, so I'm going to hold you hostage until you do what I want. And that is wholly against what we should be about.
But I do believe these are the stopgaps and that's the wrong word for it, but these are the things that are done so that those that don't have the majority still have a voice. And so it's a lever that's there to be pulled when needed. And that's why they use it, because otherwise what leverage does the party that's not majority rule in control?
And I also think it's interesting, we have to point out the fact that when ICE was deployed, it really has been a symptom of the problem, not a solution, to the shutdown. And it felt like very much the messaging coming out of this administration was that, well, we're going to send ICE in to support and help. And it's like, well, yes, but the real issue is that you all can't come to a decision. Yeah. And so now we're having to put this Band-Aid that almost feels like it escalated the situation.
Right. 713-440-8870. But that leads into your story.
Yes. Couple of comments quickly. A text saying both TSA and air traffic controllers need to be carved off and put under the purview of the FAA. Then their pay needs to be guaranteed. And from Sean asking millions a day to stand around at the airport. Why is Rick fine with that? Speaking of millions, across the U.S., from large cities to small towns, millions protested. I read 8 million. Did you read 8 million?
Yeah, I saw 8 million.
Protested the Trump administration's policies on Saturday. Another No Kings protest is what it was. A network of progressive groups opposing the administration's agenda organized the protest, which marked the third wave of demonstrations. So this was the third one that we have seen in his second term. Nationwide, the protest initiated by the 50501 movement began on President's Day in 2025. Since the movement began, there have been thousands of protests across the country, including No Kings rallies in Houston last June and October. Multiple rallies were held around Houston on Saturday. Did you go to the No Kings rally? If so, let us know. I'd like to hear about your experience. 713-440-8870.
Yeah, the 50-51 movement is 50 states, 50 events, 50-51? One day. And they try and make that something. I worry. Now, yes, they say 8 million, and I've heard people say that's the largest number in the protests and such. It felt quieter this time. And I thought about it, and I thought, is it that less people went? In some areas, they reported less. In some areas, it was massive. But I felt the coverage was less this time.
Yeah, well, that's normal.
You know?
When it's like third time out, well.
Or is it because
the
so
W
much,
hurricane?
Yeah, but here comes my conspiracy theory. Let me adjust my tinfoil hat here. Is it the conservative buying up of mass media that has kind of been pushing what should be covered and not covered in our news, as we've seen at CBS and other places, how they should be covering the news, that it's saying there are other issues, other stories, let's not cover this one as fully.
You might be right about that.
Do you feel that the coverage was less?
There are very conservative ownerships out there now that are controlling networks as well as local television stations.
If you were watching news this weekend, did you feel like there was less coverage? Did you feel the impact of these rallies as much as you did the last two times? Let us know what you think. 713-440-8870.
I wouldn't say that there was less coverage per se. I think that right now there isn't a huge, from a No Kings perspective, messaging. And and I think that a lot of times news gets traction whenever there's a very simple key through line, immigration. Mm-hmm. Well, It feels like, are they going to march for TSA? I think this was a very much broader, against all policy that we're seeing than one streamlined thought process based on either
been a
immigration.
No Wars demonstration.
Correct.
It might have had more
momentum. More momentum. Exactly. I think that is the crux of it all, is that this was like, we're just going to come out and we're going to protest against all policy, which that is their right, absolutely. However, usually when there's a very direct messaging, news will pick it up a lot more.
Focus. Yeah, they didn't have that this time. So that may be the reason. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It may also be we're also in a war, and that's taking up some of the news time of what was going on there, and the TSA strike.
Are we in a war or are we not in a war? Are we supposed to be in more of a war or less of a war?
We are in a situation in the Middle East right now.
Tensions are
rising in the Middle East.
Crazy. It's like,
don't worry.
We're not. This is all going to wind down in 2 weeks, and then we go again.
Yeah.
We have Ted from the Galleria on the line, who was at the No Kings rally. Hi, Ted. How are you?
I'm great. I was actually at one on Wirt Road in Spring Branch, and then I went downtown, took the free Metro bus to City Hall, and it was a In both places, it was, with a few exceptions, a very feel-good experience. The exception was that in Spring Branch, there was a gas station across the street, and one of the people filling their gas tanks started yelling at us and started flipping us the bird. I decided to walk across the street and ask this guy if he would be willing to talk reasonably with me, and he said no. And I said, "Do you know anything about Robert's Rules of Order?" And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's a way to have orderly conversations." And hopefully he went home and looked it up, since he'd never heard of it, which is pretty common. I teach the subject, and most people don't know what Robert's Rules of Order is because it's not taught in our schools. And I would like to think that if it was, people would actually have orderly conversations in this world. But I think people downtown, they both felt good, and I think they were inspired to do more, to get involved in political campaigns, city council or Harris County commissioner or president of the United States when that rolls around. But it was a way to inspire people. There was no real organization. We don't really know who the people are behind the No Kings rally, but it does make people, it does give people an opportunity to say no to the horrible things our government is doing right now.
Ted, thank you very much for those comments. 713-440-8870. I just want to point out, in June last year, they said they had 5 million folks turned out for the No Kings. In October, they estimated 7 million. And then this past weekend, they estimate 8 million with 3,100 events across the country. Let's go back to the phones. Dan from Bel Air. Dan, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm a combat veteran, and I've gone to each of the No Kings rallies. I was expecting more people in Houston, so from that standpoint, it was a little disappointing. But it was inspiring to meet so many people that agree that, you know, we are near a fascist takeover, basically, in our country. And I was also inspired to see many of my veteran brothers and sisters attending.
Yeah.
Thank you. To your point, thanks you for calling in. To your point, we did get this YouTube comment. No Kings at City Hall had a pretty good turnout this weekend. I don't think it was as large as June, but maybe there were more protests in the surrounding areas that people in the suburbs could go to. So that might explain that.
Yeah. And the protests, they are estimating more than 8 million turned out last weekend. But what Dan is expressing, I've heard from other folks too, it just seemed a little lighter, but it may be because of the spreading.
Well, I think that for a protest to really take shape, there really has to be a call to action. And when we see that people gather with a specific ask, with a specific call to action, there can be more movement. But, you know, simply signaling, you know, they don't like Trump. There's coming together and simply saying that isn't necessarily going to move the needle the way we've seen it in the past with some of these protests.
Yeah, with more than 8 million people, they're calling it the largest single-day demonstration in U.S. history.
Well, I think there were 1 million of them at the Cherry Blossom Festival with me.
And on that note,
coming up on Hello Houston, Perla Trevizo, a reporter with the ProPublica-Texas Tribune investigative unit, will discuss how federal prosecutors are handling immigration cases at the southern border. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
This is on tonight at 6:30.
The idea of taxing billionaires is alluring, but it comes with more strings attached than you'd think.
Anyone who tries to tell you they can give you that welfare state without raising your taxes is lying.
Why the billionaire tax might be short-sighted. That's next time on Think.
You can hear Think tonight at 11 o'clock.
Nearly all bicycles sold in America are built overseas, but an Indiana company wants to put the brakes on that with a bike factory here in the U.S.
They could make a difference with their idea of bringing manufacturing back. This is an area that knows manufacturing.
Could high tariffs on foreign competitors give a helpful push? That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's on today at 3 on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
A new investigation is raising questions about how federal prosecutors are handling immigration cases at the southern border. Reporters found that in addition to illegal entry charges, thousands of migrants are now facing extra misdemeanor counts for allegedly trespassing on military designated land. Judges have dismissed many of these cases, citing a lack of evidence and concerns about whether defendants even knew that they were breaking the law. The strategy is adding pressure to already crowded courts and in some instances keeping people in jail longer over charges that don't hold up. Joining us now is Perla Trevizo with the ProPublica-Texas Tribune investigative unit, who helped report the story. Perla, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. So explain what's going on down there. It sounds like there's a lot of strong arming for no good reason.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I think immigrants or border crossers have long been charged with entering the country illegally or re-entering the country legally. But as of a few months ago, I guess at this point we're going almost a year, starting in April, the Trump administration started designating certain areas along the border as national defense areas, as you mentioned. So basically, they become de facto military installations. And the idea is that anyone who crosses through them can also be charged, in addition with illegal reentry or entry charges, with trespassing military property. There are also misdemeanors, but it's adding on to the charges that they would normally face.
And I'm just curious, how did your team uncover that connection?
So, as I mentioned, starting in April, they started designating these areas. We knew that they were charging people with the additional charges. My colleagues in the data team, Agnel and Pratik, were analyzing data from federal courthouse to try to quantify this over time and figure out what's happening to the cases. It started off in New Mexico in the Las Cruces area and in El Paso, which is the Western Texas district. And it has since expanded from California all the way to South Texas, even though the other districts have not been filing as many charges as we've seen in the Las Cruces, El Paso area.
Can you give an idea of exactly how many of these type of charges have been filed more than the normal, say, 5,000 versus now 10,000?
So this had not been really filed before. So the military trespassing case charges have been in existence for a long, long time. There's a national security violation and trespassing since the 1900s. But they were, in more our modern times, we had seen them, for people who were protesting, for instance, a war, and they would be charged with trespassing a military base. They had not been used by and large for immigration purposes before. So there's no real way to compare it. But in terms of the charges themselves, we included a chart in the story where you see how they really just skyrocket as they start being applied in this way in conjunction with immigration enforcement.
But then being thrown out, a lot of them.
A lot of them, yes. So as we mentioned in the story, about 60% of them have been dismissed. As you mentioned, judges were finding there was no probable cause, particularly judges in the Cruces in the New Mexico district. In El Paso, we're seeing something as time has gone on, as it has evolved, we're seeing something slightly different. So people, immigrants, in order to avoid waiting for weeks for a trial date to fight the cases, they're pleading guilty because it's not really affecting their sentencing. So for a lot of people, the calculation is like, well, I don't think I did this. I didn't even know it existed, but I don't want to wait weeks for a trial date to fight this. So we are seeing cases that people are pleading guilty because of that.
Okay, this is going to sound like a really dumb question, but I think we need to go back and understand it considering what's happening in the world today. You said they're being charged with entering the country illegally. How do you, in today's day and age, actually enter this country legally? Because we used to come here for safety. People could come in if they were under threat in their country. Where does it stand? What is legal now?
Yeah, I mean, good point, right? I think under longstanding asylum laws, anyone who stepped foot on U.S. soil could file, could claim asylum, file an asylum application, regardless of the matter of entry. I think now, if that's still considered an illegal entry and it's by and large limited, some ways that you can still come legally into the countries if you get refugee status, meaning that you get processed and vetted from outside the U.S. Before you set foot on U.S. soil. Right now, that program has been largely curtailed, I think, to 7,500 limit. You can also come to the U.S. legally if you have some other type of visa before entering the country, meaning
but can you come and
an employment visa.
Can you come and seek asylum? Can you come to the border and say you are under threat in your home country and you're coming for asylum in the U.S., or is that no longer allowed?
I mean, you can still do it. I think there are, as I mentioned, limitations in the way you entered. Starting with the Biden administration, there were put limitations on entering the country like that. Like, for instance, like you cross the river or you cross the desert and turn yourself in. There were limitations because that's considered illegal entry. I think a lot of those things are still being fought in courts. It's yet to be determined what ends up happening.
Perla, but looking at your report, I mean, this is an added, essentially extra misdemeanor count of trespassing on military designated land. And I'm curious if we are seeing that is this an intentionally added misdemeanor charge, or is it more of a systematic issue that we're looking at?
It's, the administration said that they were doing this to further bring control at the border and to deter people from both crossing the border and cartel activity. So that's what is coming from the administration. We spoke to more than 20 experts, including current prosecutors, legal experts, and there is a concern about what this could mean longer term and at a larger scale. Some that we spoke with see it as a way to expand the use of the military for what have been civil law enforcement duties. Declaring federal land as military property allows the military to arrest and to detain and arrest people on their property, which they're generally not allowed to do. So on that aspect, there were concerns from some of the experts that we talked to as to what this could entail. In terms of the practical matter, as I mentioned, it's not really leading to people serving more time in jail for crossing the border illegally and trespassing. In a lot of cases, the charges are being dropped. So it was not clear to us or the experts that we talked to what is the larger goal. As I mentioned, the administration says that this is to serve as a deterrent. Right now, we're not seeing a high volume of border traffic, even though the soldiers, the military could detain the immigrants themselves. The numbers that we got from from the military show that still, by and large, the arrests are happening directly from Border Patrol agents.
Perla, we have
so that's not even changing. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, we have from my British computer guy on YouTube. Is it true that much of the land is not identified properly as military land? And I want to ask you, is it even really military land, or is it just Trump saying, "Well, yeah, it is now"?
Well, they leased it, right? So and each district is different. So, for example, around the area of El Paso, that's owned by this agency called International Boundary and Water Commission. In New Mexico, a lot of it was Department of Interior, was public land, and in each corridor along the border is slightly different in some cases. And what they did is that they leased it. This other agencies leased it to the military for a period of 3 years.
But what does the military want with it? Well, I mean, are they really using it as military land? Or
well, no, they're using it for
land?
the purposes of immigration enforcement. So, when President Trump came into office, he declared a national emergency at the border, and he made, while the military has long been involved along the border under previous administrations, both Democrats and Republicans, in this instance, he made it a priority for the military to help secure the border in a way that they hadn't had that directive as straightforward as it is today. So it is designated national defense area precisely for the purpose of immigration border enforcement.
It almost...
And so yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it almost feels to me like, I know this example is poor, but you're being charged with murder and shoplifting. It's like something else. Right? You're being charged with illegal entry into the country and trespassing. Yeah. It's like...
You're already trespassing.
Right. My only concern is that maybe in putting these cases forward when they get ruled in favor of that trespassing, that it gives validity to the land being military land, and that it's actually playing a bigger role in all of this than we think by getting into the courts, that the courts are acknowledging this land is military land, which may serve a different purpose down the road. Could that be at play?
That was certainly a concern from some of the experts that we consulted. As you said, people were already... I covered the border in Arizona before joining ProPublica, and people had already been charged with illegal entry or re-entry, under mass prosecution programs before. So this people, is not that they couldn't charge them with a misdemeanor before or a felony if they had already been charged with entry before. So the question is, what is the purpose of the added criminal trespassing, military trespassing charges? And it's yet to be determined if it's a larger plan, if it's beyond deterrence. But that was certainly one of the concerns from the experts, that now you have large swaths of land all along the border that is considered military installations. And the lease was for 3 years, but I don't know if the plan is to extend it further or not.
And I'm also curious if these cases are being thrown out also just based on the evidence, if any, that prosecutors are essentially presenting to justify these trespassing charges.
Yes, what part of what my colleagues and I did, we requested transcripts from the cases that had gone to trial. We combed federal records to get a better sense of what prosecutors in these cases were saying. We were unfortunately not able to interview any of them. The respective district offices declined our multiple requests for interviews. So we had to go based on what was publicly being said in these hearings and trials. And, basically we're saying, we recognize we don't have exact location of what this person was apprehended, or we recognize that we don't have the proofs that the courts have asked before, but, Your Honor, we have no choice but to move forward. And you could see the sense of frustration in some of the judges responding, that they had dozens of cases before them. They did not feel the government was doing an adequate job proving this additional cases, charges, and yet they refused to drop them. And they kept asking them, like, are you sure you want to proceed with this? It's not going to impact the length of the sentence. It's not going to impact, it doesn't seem that it has an impact on their immigration case, because again, they're already pleading guilty to having entered the country unlawfully. And the answer was every time, yes, we're not allowed to do anything but this.
So it's just busy work. and because the immigrants that are committing this crime don't know they're committing it, and it's not preventing people from coming across the border because they probably don't even know that this exists.
That was the biggest issue in the cases that we reviewed. In the story, we have photographs of the signs. They're quite small. They have a lot of wording in there. They're in English and Spanish. My colleagues and I drove through different parts of the border, and I wear glasses, and I had to get pretty close to actually read one of the signs, and that came up a child. In one case, public defenders would bring a mock-up of the sign and ask Border Patrol agents, like, can you read what it says here? And the big question for a lot of the judges was, did the person know they were trespassing on military property? The government tried to argue that the fact that they're crossing the border unlawfully should be enough to prove the intent of them trespassing, but judges were largely disagreeing with that premise.
Yeah, I don't think I would care. If I'd gotten this far to crossing the border and now I see a little sign, I'd just keep going.
But Perla, I am curious, though. You talked about, that it really isn't affecting necessarily someone's time within a detention center or looking at that type of effect. Is there any other impact that this is having on, the immigrant community?
It's fairly new, as we mentioned, right? This had not been used before. As far as we can tell thus far, it has not. People usually who are also charged with this, the trespassing cases, are pleading guilty to having entered the country legally and subsequently deported. That automatically poses, triggers a bar for them to be able to come back to the country, even if it's legally in the future. It's not leading to additional prison sentence. A lot of them, especially if it's an illegal entry case, are getting time served and turned over to ICE for deportation. If they're from Mexico, for instance, they can be back in Mexico in a matter of hours or days. So right now, nothing that we can see either from the data or interviews with sources points to any impact. One of the questions was, can they be deemed national security threats? And if the president invokes the Alien Enemy Act, again, could this be used? It doesn't appear to do so. I've spoken to immigration judges, but I think it remains to be seen if it does come back, if the government then can come back and say everyone who pleaded guilty to trespassing a military installation will now face X or Y. As of now, it does not appear to be the case.
Perla Trevizo is a reporter with the ProPublica-Texas Tribune investigative unit. Thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll learn about the Salvation Army of Greater Houston's largest annual fundraiser. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Maybe this will end with an uprising against the Iranian government, but it's very possible that we have triggered the opposite effect, and we're just not going to know that for months, maybe years to come.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can listen to the dailies coming up tonight at 7 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Clarion at Brazosport College, featuring the saxophone quartet Arcis on April 7th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
The news nowadays is a bit like our weather, much more extreme. The headlines that grab the most attention generate a lot of heat and not much light. On 1A, we rely on your questions and stories to help us better understand the issues that demand more than a few tweets. With your help, we'll get to the heart of the story together.
1A, weekdays at 2 p.m. on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Next week, the Salvation Army of Greater Houston will bring back its largest annual fundraiser, Chic Boutique, a 4-day designer shopping event that celebrates fashion, philanthropy, and community spirit. The event will feature a curated selection of pieces from some of Houston's most stylish and philanthropic women, including Lynn Wyatt, Rose Cullen, and Phoebe Tudor, with the proceeds going towards supporting the Salvation Army's programs that help serve families in need throughout the community. The event will run from April 8th through the 11th. To tell us more, we're joined by Lesha Elsenbrook, the chair of the Reflections on Style event. Lesha, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
How fun. Who thought of this?
Oh, well, it started about 20 years ago, actually 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say this really, but they did it in Dallas first.
North Houston?
I know.
Well,
I
thank
know,
you for joining
but
us today.
Yeah, let me just say, we do it a whole lot better.
Well, the first time I heard about this event was from Joanne King Herring. And not only had she given clothes to the event, she was buying clothes at the event, too.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about how this differs from just dropping by the Salvation Army and looking at what's on the racks.
So we collect clothing all year long. And over those 22 years, we've got a pretty faithful following. We have, first of all, we have all levels of clothing, but we really kind of curate our high-end designers from our more fashionable ladies, let's just say, and we've just taken from them over the years. And that's the funny thing, though. I have pictures of her shopping at the boutique and that's the thing. Everyone loves donating their clothes, but then they get there and they see the amazing deals that we have, and they just want to buy some more. So we really do have fantastic deals.
Anything for the guys? Does Bobby Tudor throw in a suit?
So sorry, we do not. I wish we did, because if we had a larger space, we would. But all of that goes. The Salvation Army has a year-round store over on Washington. And I can promise you can find some really neat men's clothes there.
But, this event really is to serve families in need. And so talk to us about where the proceeds go and what type of service are y'all providing?
Oh, that's such a great question. So we are actually the women's auxiliary of the Salvation Army. And this event is just to raise money for the programs for the Salvation Army. What we do that's a little different, instead of just giving the money just flat out, here's your money. Yeah. Each of the agencies come to us with a specific need. So our senior program out at Aldine Westfield might need art supplies or a grant for lunch for the seniors that come in. And so they serve those people in that community. We do a huge thing at Christmas you might have heard about called Angel Tree, where we serve families all over Houston, and they get to have a real Christmas. They do a wish list and people buy for them, or companies buy for them. We also do that. We buy presents for those kids that they get just what they want for Christmas, and their parents get them ahead of time and get to wrap them and put them under the tree. It doesn't look like it's from somebody else, which we love that. So we do things like that. Then there's also the after school program, which is called our Red Shield Youth Club. Those are at many different locations around Houston. That's an after school program where they come after school, obviously, and they do their homework and they can stay. It's really kind of after school care. And they may need computers, or again, they may need some PE equipment to play in the gym with. So it's just every year it changes, but it's always serving those different agencies. And then one last thing is we send some of those same kids to camp every summer.
Oh, nice.
And so it's really, really nice. And we buy clothes for them. And so they show up at camp looking just like every other kid, which is just so special to us. But again, I love how that each of the agencies has to kind of think about what they need. Sometimes it's a new stove. I mean, it's just different every single year, but we serve every single agency program here in the greater Houston area.
So take me back to what we're talking about today. So I'm listening and I'm like, wow, some of Houston's top fashionistas are giving their clothes here. I have a chance. How do I get in? What do I do? How can I be in line to see some of these?
Oh, well, that's another great question. First of all, later on, maybe for next year, we sold out this year, but we have a show. We have a fashion show that's amazing. It's all from the donated clothes. And that's on Tuesday at River Oaks Country Club. That's a sellout pretty much every year. And we have a smaller portion of the clothing there. So the ladies that are shopping, that are at the luncheon that's bought a ticket, they get to shop kind of ahead of time. But again, we have so much more than what's going to be at River Oaks. Starting on that Wednesday night, we have a preview party at 4 o'clock. It's a $20 donation at the door. And I can just tell you, I know people line up really, really early to kind of get first dibs at the things that are there.
Where is it at?
It's at the corner of Buffalo Speedway in Richmond, and you can't miss it. It's just right there on the corner. I've been there so many times I can't tell you the exact address. It is 3403 Richmond Avenue. But trust me, see where the line is and you'll know where it is.
And so that's on Wednesday night.
That's on Wednesday night, 4 to 7. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 10 to 5, no charge.
Is that the same location there on Buffalo and Richmond?
Yes, same place, Buffalo Speedway.
But I think there's also a level of sustainability in this where people are, you have options. You can go to the stores, but the fact of the matter is it's also good for the planet.
Absolutely. Thrifting is a really big thing right now, especially with younger people. I'm always amazed when I see who's shopping at the stores. I always think it's going to be like older ladies like me, but then no, it's really a lot of young people. They're very excited about finding that vintage piece of Prada or the purse that is like $1,000 for $100. And then also fur pieces. I know sometimes people have a thing about furs, but the furs already exist. Yeah. We might as well not make any more of them. We might as well just sell the ones.
Well, now that's an interesting take on the whole subject.
There's some beautiful furs.
Things are very expensive for so many people right now. And so to be able to have access to really high-end, nice material and textiles and things, like you have a hat here with us.
Yeah, what did you bring in?
Something.
I brought some things in. The other thing I just want to mention, and in fact, one of my pieces here, because I love to promote local
watching
designers.
On YouTube, this is the time to go
This is, so several boutiques around town and designers around town donate their new with tags. Now, you'll come into the store and you'll find a lot of new with tags. This is a Christy Lynn. She is a local designer here, and this is just a brand new shirt that retailed for, I'm going to tell you, but we're selling it for $80. It was probably about a $250, $300 shirt. So that's just a perfect example. We've got a lot of new with tags. The hat that you love, that you probably should come in and buy.
It's a Freya.
It's a Freya.
That is a great hat. I like that hat.
It was probably about a $200 hat. We have it for $25.
Could Celeste buy it right now when you're leaving?
It's a large.
I would probably get in trouble. I probably would get in trouble. Here's some perfect, another example. These
shoes.
We have a lot of shoes. These are some that were from Tootsie's, and they're like $30. I also want to just emphasize that we really go through a really strict process when we get items in for donations. They are cleaned. We have a team that can do miracles with fixing that little snag or replacing the button. It's called our Renew and Refresh team. And then they clean the soles of the shoes. I mean, when you come in, you're not going to find anything that's stained or ripped or torn because we're very, very careful about that.
But I'm looking through Paper City or one of those magazines and I want that ball gown that Lynn Wyatt wore to something. Am I going to find things like that there?
You probably will, yes.
I
don't know if she's donated this year.
I'm just using as generic
generic. Yes.
dye on
we have
fashion.
quite a bit of these ladies need to make room in their closet for the new things
And they
that they're
only wear
buying.
these things
That's
once.
right.
Things go out of
They
style.
do.
It's not because the clothes are worn.
They just don't want to be seen in it more than once.
Well,
sometimes.
they've run it a couple of times.
Yeah, and
it's time to move on to something new because we already had our picture taken in it.
So cool finds.
Move on to something new while also helping the community.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Better.
It is
nice.
great. It is great.
Lesha Elsenbrook is the chair of the Reflections on Style event. Lesha, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me. I hope you come see us in the showroom.
The Chic Boutique shopping event will run in Houston from April 8th to the 11th. For more information, visit sawahouston.org. And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for joining us on Hello Houston today. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. It's also our anniversary tomorrow.
Oh,
Hello Houston.
1 year old.
1 year anniversary show. So be sure to tune in and celebrate this milestone with
We
us.
need a cake.
And we're going to be talking to returning guests from our first show, and you're not going to want to miss that. And we will also be talking to Back to the Future co-writer Bob Gale. This is News 88.7. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kavacek. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
I'm Stephen Dubner. On the next Freakonomics Radio. Wherever there is history being made, the commodity traders are there. Commodity traders often operate in the shadows, and their reach is enormous.
They are the bankers